The cold void of space stretched endlessly in all directions. Stars dotted the black canvas like tiny diamonds, their light traveling for millions of years to reach this forgotten corner of the galaxy. Here, in the outer rim of the Kepler system, something dark and silent drifted between the planets. The ship was massive. Nearly 2 miles long and half a mile wide, it moved through space like a sleeping giant. Its hull was scarred with blast marks and holes. Pieces of metal floated around it like a cloud of debris. To anyone who saw it, the vessel looked dead. It had been floating here for 37 years without moving, without sending any signals, without showing any signs of life. Commander Vextar clicked his sharp beak as he studied the readings on his scanner. The bird-like alien stood 7 feet tall, his blue and green feathers ruffled with excitement. His yellow eyes gleamed as he looked at the massive human ship on his screen. "Look at this piece of junk," he squawked to his crew. The humans thought. They could build warships. What a joke. His bridge crew laughed. They were all Zephyrians, a race of intelligent bird people who had joined the great alliance that wiped out humanity decades ago. Now they made their living as salvage crews, picking through the remains of dead civilizations. "Sir, our scans show the ship is completely dead," reported his second officer, a smaller Zephyrian with bright red feathers. "No power, no life signs, no active systems, just floating scrap metal." Vextar nodded. "Perfect. We'll strip it clean and sell the parts." Human technology was primitive, but some collectors still pay good money for their weapons and engines. The Zephyrian commander had heard stories about humans. They were a young race that had spread too fast across the galaxy. The older alien. Species got nervous when humans started building colonies and making friends with other races. So the Hegemony Alliance was formed. 6 powerful alien species working together with one goal: remove the human threat forever. It took them only 5 years to hunt down every human ship and destroy every human colony. Or so they thought. The war ended with humanity's complete defeat. No survivors, no refugees, no hidden bases. The human race was extinct. "Begin docking procedures," Vextar ordered. "Send boarding teams to sections 1 through 12. I want a full inventory of everything valuable on that ship." Deep inside the dead human vessel, something stirred. In a room buried at the heart of the ship, thousands of tiny lights began to blink. Screens that had been dark for decades suddenly glowed with soft blue light. Data streams flowed across displays as systems came online one by one. Aria had been waiting. The ship's artificial intelligence had a name that meant Adaptive Response Intelligence Agent. For 37 years, she had been playing dead. Her sensors had been watching space around the ship. Her communication arrays had been listening to alien radio signals. Her memory banks had been recording everything. Now aliens were coming aboard. Aria ran quick calculations and made her decision. It was time to wake up Captain Morrison. In the medical bay, hundreds of white pods lined the walls. Inside each pod, a human body floated in blue liquid, kept alive by advanced life support systems. The pods looked like coffins to outsiders, but they were actually the most advanced sleep chambers ever built. Aria sent a gentle signal to pod number 1. Slowly, very slowly, the liquid began to drain. The pod's lid opened with a soft hiss. Inside, a man opened his eyes for the first time in 37 years. Captain Jake Morrison was 45 years old when he went to sleep. The sleep chambers had kept his body from aging, so he still looked exactly the same. He had short brown hair, calm green eyes, and the steady look of someone who had commanded starships for 20 years. Morrison sat up slowly and took a deep breath. The air tasted stale, but good. He could feel his muscles waking up as the sleep drugs left his system. "Status report, Aria," he said quietly. The AI's voice filled the medical bay. It sounded like a woman, calm and professional. "Captain, we have visitors. A Zephyrian salvage fleet has found us. They believe we are a derelict ship. 3 boarding parties are preparing to enter through airlocks 7, 12, and 15. Morrison smiled. It was not a happy smile. "How long have we been asleep?" 37 years, 4 months, and 16 days, Captain. "Any word from Earth?" "Negative, sir. Radio silence continues as planned." Morrison stood up and walked to a wall panel. He pressed his hand against it, and a hidden compartment opened. Inside was his uniform, cleaned and pressed, waiting for him just as he had left it decades ago. "Aria, begin wake-up procedures for senior staff only. Keep it quiet. I want Morrison, Park, Bell, Mills, Scott, Rodriguez, and Clark awake within the hour." "Understood, Captain. What about the boarding parties?" Morrison pulled on his uniform and checked himself in a mirror. He looked exactly like the man who had gone to sleep 37 years ago, ready to save humanity from extinction. "Let them come aboard," he said. "Let them think they found a dead human ship full of primitive technology. Let them feel safe while they're stealing from what they think is a tomb." Morrison walked to the door of the medical bay. Through the ship's internal sensors, he could see the alien salvage teams preparing their equipment. They had no idea what they were really walking into. "Aria, maintain all deception protocols. Keep the ship looking dead. But start warming up our real systems. After 37 years of playing dead, I think it's time to remind the galaxy that humans are very hard to kill." The captain walked through dark corridors toward the bridge, his footsteps silent on the metal floor. Behind him, more sleep pods began to open as his crew slowly awakened. Above him, alien ships prepared to dock with what they thought was an abandoned wreck. None of them knew that they were about to learn why the other alien races had been so afraid of humanity in the first place. Captain Morrison walked through the dark hallways of his ship, his boots making no sound on the metal floor. Emergency lights cast a red glow every few feet, just enough to see by. The ship felt cold and empty, exactly the way it was supposed to look to outside sensors. He reached the bridge and sat in his captain's chair. The command center was completely dark, except for one small screen that showed the approaching alien ships. Morrison watched as the Zephyrian vessels moved closer to his ship, like vultures circling a dead animal. "Aria, show me what they're saying to each other." The AI's voice came from speakers around the bridge. "Yes, Captain. I've been monitoring their communications." A new voice filled the bridge, speaking in the harsh clicking language of the Zephyrians. Aria translated the words into English as they spoke. "This human ship is even bigger than our reports said," one alien was saying. "Look at all those weapon ports. No wonder the Alliance was worried about these creatures." Another voice laughed. "Worried? About this junk? My grandfather's cargo hauler has better armor than this thing." Humans were all talk and no action. Morrison's jaw tightened as he listened. These aliens had no idea what they were really looking at. The weapon ports they could see were just the obvious ones. The real weapons were hidden behind panels that looked like normal hull plating. "Captain," Aria sighed, "Lieutenant Commander Park is awake and requesting permission to come to the bridge. Send her up and keep waking the others." A few minutes later, Lisa Park entered the bridge. She was a tall woman with black hair and sharp blue eyes. As the ship's tactical officer, she knew every weapon system on the vessel better than anyone except Morrison himself. "Sir, it's good to see you again," Park said as she took her position at the weapons console. "Aria briefed me on our situation. How do you want to play this?" Morrison stood and walked to the main view screen. Outside, he could see the alien ships, getting ready to dock, the same way we planned it 37 years ago. We let them come aboard. We let them think they're looting a dead ship. And we gather as much intelligence as we can about what's been happening in the galaxy since we went to sleep. Park nodded and began quietly activating her systems. The weapons console looked completely dead from the outside, but she was actually bringing the ship's most powerful guns online. Sir, I have to ask, do you think the plan worked? Do you think Earth is safe? We'll find out soon enough, Morrison replied. But I have faith in Admiral Carter. If anyone could pull off the greatest magic trick in human history, it's her. More. Crew members began arriving on the bridge. Chief Engineer Ryan Bell came up from the engine rooms. He was a big man with gray hair and hands that were always dirty from working on machines. Dr. Kate Mills arrived from the science labs, her red hair tied back and her green eyes bright with curiosity. One by one, Morrison's senior staff took their positions. Status report, Morrison ordered. Bell spoke first. All primary systems are running normally, Captain. The fusion reactors had been in standby mode for 37 years, but they're ready to go to full power on your command. The engines will need about 10 minutes to warm up, but after that, we'll have full maneuverability. Dr. Mills checked her science station. Long-range sensors are coming online now, sir. I'm detecting significant changes in galactic politics. Since we went to sleep, the Hegemony Alliance has expanded. They now control most of the inner systems. Any signs of other human ships? Morrison asked. Not yet, sir, but I'm only scanning this sector. It will take time to check the locations. Where the other sleeper ships were supposed to be hidden. Morrison nodded. The plan had been simple but dangerous. When Earth's government realized that the alien alliance was going to attack humanity, they had secretly prepared for the worst. Dozens of human ships like the Valiant had been sent to different parts of the galaxy with volunteer crews. Each ship was equipped with advanced stealth technology and enough supplies to stay hidden for decades. The idea was that even if Earth fell, these sleeper ships would survive. They would wait and watch and learn. Then, when the time was right, they would reveal themselves and show the galaxy that humanity was far from extinct. Aria, Morrison said, show me the docking process. The main screen changed to show the alien ships attaching to his vessel's hull. Morrison could see Zephyrian soldiers in spacesuits, preparing to cut through his airlocks. They carried primitive weapons and simple scanning tools. They clearly expected no resistance from a dead ship. Sir, Park said, should I activate the defensive systems? Not yet. Let them come aboard. But I want you to track every alien that enters this ship. If things go wrong, I want to be able to disable them all within 30 seconds. The first alien boarding party entered through airlock. 7. Morrison watched on the security screens as 3 Zephyrians stepped into his ship. They moved carefully, weapons ready, but they looked more excited than nervous. The aliens started down the main corridor, heading toward what they thought was the ship's command center. Morrison smiled. They were actually walking toward a fake bridge that had been built just for situations like this. The real bridge was hidden deep inside the ship, protected by armor that could stop almost any weapon. Look at this, one of the aliens said as they walked. The humans built everything so big. What a waste of materials. Primitive construction. Another agreed. No wonder they lost the war so quickly. Morrison felt his anger rising, but he forced himself to stay calm. These aliens had helped murder billions of innocent people. But getting angry now would not help anything. He needed information more than revenge. Aria, are you recording everything they say and do? Yes, Captain. I'm also scanning their equipment and analyzing their technology. Interesting findings so far, such as their weapons and tools are actually less advanced than they were 37 years ago. It appears that with humans gone, galactic technological progress has slowed significantly. Morrison raised an eyebrow. They've been going backwards? In some areas, yes. Human scientists were apparently driving a lot of innovation in the galaxy. Without that competition, the other races have become comfortable with their existing technology. More alien boarding parties entered the ship. Soon Morrison had 12 Zephyrians wandering through his corridors, examining what they thought were primitive human systems. They had no idea that every step they took was being recorded, every word they spoke was being analyzed, and every piece of equipment they carried was being studied by the ship's advanced computers. Dr. Mills looked up from her station. "Captain, I'm getting some very interesting readings from their ships. Their engine design is almost identical to what we saw 37 years ago. Same with their shields and weapons. It's like they stopped trying to improve anything." "Chief," Bell grunted. "Makes sense. Humans always pushed everyone else to do better. Take away the competition, and people get lazy." Morrison watched the aliens on his screens. They were now examining what they thought was the ship's main computer core. In reality, it was just a collection of spare parts arranged to look important. The real computer systems were hidden behind walls that looked like normal ship structure. "Sir," Park said quietly, "I count 47 more alien ships in this sector. Long-range scans show they're all salvage operations, picking through old battlefields. They're treating this entire region like a junkyard." Morrison felt sick. This had been human space once. These systems had been home to billions of people. Now aliens were stripping the bones of dead colonies and selling them for scrap. "Arya, how long before we can safely reveal ourselves?" "I recommend waiting until we have complete intelligence on current galactic conditions, Captain. I estimate 6 more hours to fully analyze their technology and communications. We should also attempt to contact other sleeper ships before taking any action." Morrison nodded. He had waited 37 years. He could wait a few more hours. On the security screens, the alien boarding parties continued their exploration. They had no idea that the ghost ship they were looting was actually very much alive and very much angry. The alien boarding parties had been inside the ship for 2 hours now. Commander Vextar watched from his own vessel as his team spread through the human ship, cataloging everything they found. So far, the operation was going exactly as planned. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "Team 3 reports they found the ship's main power core. It's completely dead, just like the rest of the ship." Vextar nodded his feathered head. "Good. What about the weapon systems?" "Team 1 says the gun batteries are primitive. Ancient plasma cannons and basic missile tubes. Nothing impressive." On the human ship, Captain Morrison watched the aliens through hidden cameras. He had to admit they were thorough. The Zephyrians were taking detailed scans of everything they saw, making notes about human technology and construction methods. "Arya," Morrison said quietly, "it's time to start the psychological phase. Begin with subtle system malfunctions." "Understood, Captain." Beginning low-level harassment protocols. The first sign of trouble came from Team 2, which was exploring the ship's lower decks. The lead Zephyrian, a soldier named Crix, was examining what looked like a human weapons locker when the lights in the corridor began to flicker. "Strange," Crix muttered, looking around. "The power should be completely dead." His scanner showed no energy readings from the ship's systems, but the lights continued to flicker in a slow, steady pattern. On, off, like the ship was trying to send some kind of message. Crix reported the incident to his commander, who told him to ignore it. Old ships sometimes had power fluctuations in their emergency systems. It was nothing to worry about, but Arya was just getting started. Team 3 was in what they thought was the ship's computer center when their equipment began acting up. Scanners that had been working perfectly started giving strange readings. Communication devices filled with static. One soldier's helmet display began showing text in a human language none of them could read. "Team leader to command," the squad leader called. "We're having some technical difficulties down here." "What kind of difficulties?" Vextar asked. "Our gear is malfunctioning. Scanners, communicators, everything. It started about 10 minutes ago." Dr. Kate Mills smiled as she watched from the Yash. Real command center. She was monitoring the aliens' equipment through the ship's sensors, watching as Arias subtly interfered with their electronics. It was like watching a master artist at work. "Aria, increase the intensity slowly. I want them confused, not panicked." "Acknowledged, Dr. Mills." The next phase began when Team 1 reached what they thought was the ship's bridge. The fake command center looked exactly like what the aliens expected from human technology: big, clunky control panels and primitive displays. But as they started examining the equipment, things got strange. The main view screen suddenly turned on, showing nothing but static. Then the static formed patterns, like faces in the snow. The aliens stared at the screen, trying to figure out what they were seeing. "Is that ... Is that supposed to be doing that?" one soldier asked. Before anyone could answer, they heard something that made their feathers stand on end. Whispers, soft voices speaking in human languages, coming from the ship's communication system. The words were too quiet to understand, but they sounded like conversations, like the ship was somehow playing back recordings of its dead crew. Team 1's leader tried to contact Commander Vextar, but his radio was filled with static. In the static, he could swear he heard human voices talking about battle plans and weapon systems. On his ship, Vextar was getting worried. His teams had been reporting minor problems for the past hour, and now communications were becoming difficult. His technical officer assured him that their equipment was working fine, but something was definitely interfering with their signals. "Sir," his second officer said, "I'm reading some unusual energy patterns from the human ship." "What kind of patterns?" "I'm not sure. Our sensors show the ship is still completely dead, but there are some very faint electromagnetic fluctuations. They're too weak to be active systems. But ... double quotes. But what?" "Well, sir, they're getting stronger." Inside the human ship, Sergeant Tony Rodriguez was having the time of his life. As the ship's security chief, he had spent years training for covert operations. Now he was finally getting to use those skills. Rodriguez was a compact man with black hair and quick brown eyes. He could move through the ship's maintenance tunnels without making a sound, and he knew every secret passage and hidden room on the vessel. While the aliens wandered through the main corridors, he was following them like a ghost. "Aria," he whispered into his throat microphone, "I'm in position behind Team 2, ready to begin physical harassment. Proceed, Sergeant. Keep it subtle." Rodriguez smiled and activated a small device. The aliens were examining a storage room when they heard a sound behind them. A soft metallic clank, like someone dropping a tool. They turned around, weapons ready, but saw nothing. "Did you hear that?" one of them asked. "Probably just the ship." "Settling," another replied. "These old hulks make all kinds of noise." But the sounds continued. Footsteps in empty corridors. Doors closing in distant parts of the ship. The soft hum of machinery that shouldn't be working. Each sound was faint enough that the aliens could almost convince themselves they were imagining. Dr. Mills was monitoring the aliens' vital signs through the ship's sensors. "Captain, their stress levels are rising. Heart rate's up, brain activity showing signs of anxiety. The psychological pressure is working." Morrison nodded. "Good. But I want them to feel uneasy, not terrified. We need them to keep exploring." Commander Vextar was becoming increasingly uncomfortable. His boarding teams were reporting more and more problems. Equipment failures, strange sounds, mysterious energy readings. One team had even claimed to see movement in the shadows, though. Their cameras showed nothing. "Sir," his technical officer said, "I think we should recall the boarding parties. Something isn't right about this ship." Vexstar's pride made him hesitate. He was an experienced salvage operator. He had explored hundreds of dead ships. He wasn't going to be scared away by a few technical glitches. Negative, he decided. Continue the operation. We've come too far to turn back now. But his confidence took a hit when Team 3 made an unexpected discovery. They had been exploring what they thought was a storage area when one of the soldiers noticed something odd about the wall. The metal plating looked different, newer somehow. "Commander, you need to see this," the team leader reported. "We've found a section that doesn't match our scans." "What do you mean?" "The wall here. It's not on our blueprints. It's like there's a whole room behind it that our sensors can't detect." Vexstar felt his stomach tighten. "Are you sure?" "Yes, sir. And there's something else. This wall section is warm, like there's active machinery behind it." Inside the hidden command center, Morrison exchanged glances with his officers. The aliens had found one of the ship's concealed sections. It was bound to happen eventually, but it still made him nervous. "Arya, seal all other hidden areas. Route power around that section to make it look inactive." "Already done, Captain. However, I should point out that if they continue exploring systematically, they will eventually find more concealed areas." Dr. Mills looked up from her station. "Captain, I'm reading elevated stress hormones in all the boarding party members. They know something is wrong, but they can't figure out what." Sergeant Rodriguez's voice came through the communication system. "Sir, I'm seeing some of them getting jumpy. Team 1 keeps looking over their shoulders like they think someone's following them." Morrison made a decision. "Rodriguez, make yourself visible to one of them, just for a second. Let them think they saw something." "With pleasure, sir." Rodriguez positioned himself at the end of a corridor where Team 2 was working. When one of the aliens turned around, Rodriguez stepped into view for just a moment before disappearing into a maintenance hatch. The alien soldier froze. "There's someone on this ship," he whispered into his radio. "What did you say?" his team leader asked. "I saw someone. A human. He was right there at the end of the corridor." "That's impossible. This ship has been dead for decades." "I know what I saw." The alien soldier raised his weapon and moved carefully down the corridor. His scanner showed no life signs, no heat signatures, nothing. But he had definitely seen a figure in what looked like a human military uniform. Commander Vexstar listened to the report with growing alarm. His soldiers were trained professionals. They didn't imagine things or panic easily. If one of them said he saw someone, then something was definitely wrong. "All teams, report status immediately," he ordered. The responses he got made him even more worried. Team 1 reported electronic equipment behaving strangely. Team 2 confirmed possible human presence. Team 3 had found ship sections that didn't appear on any scans. For the first time since entering the human ship, Vexstar began to wonder if he had made a terrible mistake. Commander Vexstar paced back and forth on his bridge, his sharp claws clicking against the metal floor. The reports from his boarding teams were getting stranger by the hour. Equipment failures, mysterious sounds, possible human sightings, none of it made sense. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "I'm having trouble maintaining contact with our teams. There's some kind of interference coming from the human ship." "What kind of interference?" "I'm not sure. It's like something is jamming our signals, but our sensors show no active transmitters on that ship." Vexstar's feathers ruffled with anxiety. In 30 years of salvage operations, he had never encountered anything like this. Dead ships stayed dead. They didn't start interfering with communications or playing tricks on boarding parties. Inside the human vessel, Captain Morrison made his final preparations. His crew was fully awake now, positioned at stations throughout the ship. Chief Engineer Bell had the engines ready for full power. Lieutenant Commander Park had all weapon systems online but hidden. Dr. Mills was monitoring every alien movement through the ship's sensors. "Aria," Morrison said, "open a channel to the Zephyrian commander. It's time to introduce ourselves." They. AI's voice was calm and professional. "Channel open, Captain." Morrison activated the main view screen in the fake bridge where Team 1 was still exploring. The aliens jumped back as the screen suddenly came to life, showing the face of a human man in a military uniform. "Good afternoon," Morrison said pleasantly. "Welcome aboard the UE Salient. I am Captain Jake Morrison, commanding officer of this vessel." The alien soldiers stared at the screen in shock. One of them raised his weapon, but his team leader held up a hand to stop him. "That's impossible," the team leader said. "This ship has been dead for decades. You're all extinct." Morrison smiled. "Reports of our extinction have been greatly exaggerated. Aria, please establish communication with Commander Vexstar." On the Zephyrian command ship, every alarm started ringing at once. The main view screen activated without anyone touching it, showing the same human face that his boarding teams were seeing. "Commander Vexstar," Morrison said, "I believe your people are guests on my ship. I think it's time we had a proper conversation." Vexstar's yellow eyes went wide. "This is impossible. Humans are extinct. We destroyed your entire species." "Did you?" Morrison asked. "Let me show you something interesting." The screen split to show dozens of other view screens. On each one, a different human face appeared. Men and women in military uniforms, all looking directly at Vexstar. All very much alive. "Captain Morrison to all sleeper vessels," Morrison announced. "Report status." One by one, the other human captains responded. Captain Amy Scott, UE's Defiant. Awake and operational. Captain Ben Clark, UE's Guardian. All systems green. Captain Tony Rodriguez, U's Vengeance. Ready for orders. The list went on and on. 37 ships. 37 crews that had been hiding in different parts of the galaxy for nearly 4 decades. Vexstar felt his legs go weak. "How many of you are there?" Morrison's expression became serious. "Enough. Aria, show him the truth." The view screen changed to show historical footage from 37 years ago. It showed human ships being destroyed, human colonies burning, human refugees fleeing through space. But then the images changed to show something else entirely. "What you're seeing now," Morrison explained, "is what really happened during your so-called victory. While your alliance was hunting down our military fleets, humanity was evacuating. Every man, woman, and child was moved to secret colonies beyond the galactic rim. The footage showed massive transport ships carrying millions of people to hidden worlds. It showed the construction of new cities on planets that didn't appear on any star charts. It showed humanity not dying, but relocating. The ships you destroyed were mostly empty," Morrison continued. "The colonies you burned were already evacuated. We gave you what you wanted to see, the death of humanity. But it was all an illusion." Dr. Mills stepped into view on the screen. "Commander, I'm Dr. Kate Mills, xenobiologist. For the past 37 years, I've been studying your species and your allies. I know more about Zephyrian culture than most. Zephyrians do." She activated her own screen, showing detailed biological scans of Vexstar and his crew. "I know that your people were forced into the Hegemony Alliance against your will. I know that your government was threatened with destruction if you didn't participate in the war against humanity." Vexstar's beak opened in shock. Those facts were supposed to be classified. How could this human know about secret political deals? Made decades ago? Communications Officer Ben Clark appeared on another part of the screen. Sir, we've been monitoring galactic communications for 37 years. We know everything that's been happening since the war. Every political deal, every military operation, every secret treaty. We've been watching, Morrison said quietly. We've been learning, and we've been preparing. Chief Engineer Bell joined the conversation. Commander, take a look at your sensor readings. What do you see when you scan our ship? Vexstar checked his instruments. They still showed a dead vessel with no active systems. I see nothing. No power, no life signs, no active technology. Bell smiled. Now watch this. The entire human ship suddenly blazed with light. Power readings shot off the scale. Weapon. Systems that hadn't appeared on any scans suddenly became visible. The vessel that had looked like a floating wreck transformed into one of the most advanced warships Vexstar had ever seen. Adaptive camouflage technology, Bell explained. We've been running on full power this entire time. You just couldn't see it. Morrison stood up from his captain's chair. Commander Vexstar, your boarding parties are currently surrounded by my security teams. They are in no immediate danger, but they are completely under our control. Your ships are outnumbered and outgunned. What happens next is entirely up to you. Vexstar looked at his tactical displays. His sensors were finally showing the truth. The human ship was bristling with weapons that could destroy his entire salvage fleet within minutes. Worse, his long-range scanners were detecting more human vessels appearing throughout the sector. What do you want? Vexstar asked quietly. Morrison's expression became deadly serious. Justice. For 37 years, the galaxy has believed that humanity committed some terrible crime that justified our extinction. But we have evidence that proves otherwise. Dr. Mills activated another screen, showing classified documents from the Hegemony Alliance. These are your own military records, Commander. They detail the planning of humanity's destruction. They show that we were targeted not because we had done anything wrong, but because the older races were afraid of our potential. The documents scrolled past on the screen. Battle plans, population estimates, discussions about how to completely eliminate human civilization. All signed by leaders of the 6 Alliance species. We weren't a threat to anyone, Morrison said. We were explorers and traders. We made friends with dozens of alien species. We shared our technology and culture freely. But apparently, that made us dangerous. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Amy Scott appeared on the screen. Captain Morrison, I've completed my analysis of the boarding party members. Their genetic profiles match our records. These individuals were not involved in the original war crimes. Morrison nodded. Commander Vexstar, according to our records, the Zephyrian Republic was coerced into joining the Alliance. Your people didn't want to participate in genocide, but you were threatened with destruction if you refused. Vexstar's feathers drooped. It was true. His government had tried to stay neutral, but the other Alliance members had made it clear that any species not supporting the war would be considered an enemy. That doesn't excuse what we did, Vexstar said quietly. No, it doesn't, Morrison agreed. But it does mean we might be able to work together to fix it. Lieutenant Commander Park stepped forward. Sir, I'm reading massive hyperspace signatures throughout the sector. Looks like someone called for help. Morrison smiled grimly. Aria, identify the approaching vessels. Alliance military forces, Captain. 12 battleships and 40 escort vessels. They will arrive in approximately 1 hour. Vexstar looked panicked. I didn't call for military support. That signal went out automatically when we lost contact with our teams. Morrison sat back down in his chair. Well, Commander, it looks like you have a choice to make. You can stand with the alliance that forced you into committing genocide, or you can stand with the species they tried to destroy. He leaned forward, his green eyes intense. Because I can promise you this, those alliance ships are not coming here to rescue your people. They're coming to destroy any evidence that humanity survived, including your entire salvage fleet. On his tactical display, Vextar could see the approaching Alliance warships. Morrison was right. Those vessels were armed for battle, not rescue. His salvage ships wouldn't stand a chance against military-grade weapons. What are you proposing? Vextar asked. Morrison stood up again. Help us prove to the galaxy what really happened 37 years ago. Help us show everyone that the Hegemony Alliance committed genocide against an innocent species. Help us make sure it never happens again. The view screen showed all 37 human ships now, spread across multiple star systems. Each one was revealing its true capabilities, dropping the disguises they had maintained. Commander Vextar stared at the view screen, his mind racing. Around him, his bridge crew waited in tense silence. The approaching Alliance fleet would arrive in less than an hour, and he had to make the most important decision of his life. Commander, his tactical officer whispered, our long-range sensors are detecting something else. More ships dropping out of hyperspace near the Alliance fleet. Identify them, Vextar ordered. The answer came back quickly. Sir, they're human vessels. Dozens of them. They're taking positions to intercept the Alliance forces. On the main screen, Captain Morrison nodded grimly. Commander, I should mention that we weren't the only part of humanity's survival plan. While we were sleeping and watching, other human fleets have been very busy. The screen changed to show the tactical situation throughout the sector. Vextar counted over 100 human ships, all much more advanced than anything in the Alliance records. They moved with perfect coordination, like parts of a single massive organism. A new face appeared on the screen. A woman with gray hair and steel blue eyes, wearing an admiral's uniform. Commander Vextar, the woman said, I am Admiral Helen Carter, commanding the Free Human Fleet. 37 years ago, I was in charge of humanity's evacuation and survival operations. Vextar had heard that name before. Carter had been mentioned in Alliance intelligence reports as one of humanity's most dangerous military leaders. She was supposed to be dead. Admiral, Morrison said, the commander here has a choice to make. Carter nodded. Commander Vextar, your species has a reputation for honor and fairness. Before the war, Zephyrians and humans traded peacefully for over a century. Our people respected each other. She paused, letting that sink in. I know your government was forced into the Alliance. I know your people didn't want to participate in genocide. But you did participate, and that has consequences. The Admiral activated another screen, showing massive space stations and industrial complexes. This is what humanity has been building for 37 years. New worlds, new technologies, new alliances with species that the Hegemony Alliance has oppressed. Vextar saw cities that dwarfed anything in Alliance space. Ships that looked like they came from a civilization 1,000 years more advanced. Millions of humans living and working in freedom. We could have returned years ago, Carter continued. We could have launched a war of revenge against every species that participated in our attempted destruction. But that's not who we are. Morrison stepped forward. Instead, we chose to gather evidence. For 37 years, we've been documenting every crime committed by the Hegemony Alliance. Every forced annexation, every genocide, every act of oppression. Dr. Mills activated her displays, showing file after file of classified Alliance documents. We have records of 16 different species that have been wiped out since humanity's defeat. Races that asked too many questions or refused to submit to Alliance control. The evidence was overwhelming. Video recordings of Alliance leaders planning attacks on innocent worlds. Documents describing the systematic destruction of entire civilizations. Proof that the Alliance had become exactly the kind of galactic tyranny they had accused humanity of wanting to create. "Commander," Admiral Carter said, "we're offering you a chance to be on the right side of history. Help us expose the truth, and we'll help you rebuild Zephyrian independence." Vexstar's communications officer looked up nervously. "Sir, the Alliance fleet is demanding we respond to their signals. They want a full report on our situation." Through the human ship's view screen, Vstar could see his own boarding parties. They were sitting calmly in what looked like a comfortable lounge area, being served food and drinks by human crew members. They didn't look like prisoners. They looked like guests. "Your people are safe," Morrison assured him. "They're actually having quite interesting conversations with my crew. Turns out, ordinary Zephyrians and ordinary humans get along just fine when politicians aren't telling them to kill each other." Sergeant Rodriguez appeared on screen, standing next to one of the Zephyrian soldiers. "Sir, these guys are asking some really good questions about what actually happened during the war. I think they're starting to understand they were lied to." Vexstar made his decision. "Admiral Carter," he said, "what do you need from me?" The Admiral smiled. "First, we need you to tell the approaching Alliance fleet that your salvage operation found nothing valuable. Tell them the human ship is completely stripped and worthless. And then you help us arrange a meeting with the Galactic Council. We have evidence to present, and we want the whole galaxy to see it." Vexstar nodded and turned to his communications officer. "Send a message to the Alliance fleet. Tell them we found a derelict human vessel with no salvageable materials. Recommend they continue to their next patrol area." As his officer sent the message, Vexstar watched the tactical display. The human ships were spreading out in formation, but they weren't taking aggressive positions. They looked ready to fight if necessary, but they seemed to prefer avoiding a battle. "Admiral," Vexstar asked, "what if the Alliance refuses to listen? What if they try to attack you?" Carter's expression became cold. "Then they'll learn why they were so afraid of humanity in the first place." The main screen changed to show the Alliance fleet receiving Vexstar's message. For several tense minutes, the warships held their position. Then, slowly, they began turning away from the sector. "They're leaving," Vexstar's tactical officer reported. "All Alliance vessels are jumping to hyperspace." Morrison sat back in his chair. "Good. We'd rather not start a war today." "But you could have won," Vexstar said. "Your ships clearly outclass anything the Alliance has." Admiral Carter nodded. "Yes, we could have destroyed that fleet easily, but that would have made us the aggressors. We want the galaxy to see us as we really are, a peaceful species that was nearly destroyed by those who claim to be protecting." Galactic Peace. Chief Engineer Bell appeared on screen. "Commander, you should know that human technology has advanced considerably since the war. We've had 37 years to develop new systems without interference. Our ships can do things that Alliance scientists think are impossible." To demonstrate, the entire human fleet suddenly vanished from sensors. Vexstar's crew scrambled to find them, but every scanner showed empty space. "Adaptive stealth technology," Bell explained as the ships reappeared. "We can hide from any sensor system currently in use. We've been watching Alliance movements for decades without being detected." Dr. Mills added her own demonstration. "We've also developed technology that allows us to survive in any environment. Human colonies now exist on worlds that Alliance species consider completely uninhabitable." The evidence kept mounting. Humanity hadn't just survived, they had thrived. They had become more advanced, more capable, and more united than ever before. "Commander," Admiral Carter said, "we're going to contact the Galactic Council now." "We're?" going to present our evidence and demand justice for the crimes committed against humanity and other species. What about my people? Vexstar asked. What about the Zephyrian Republic? Morrison smiled. We remember our old friendship with your species. We're prepared to offer the Zephyrian Republic full independence from the Hegemony Alliance, plus access to human technology and trade agreements. All we ask in return, Carter added, is that you help us make sure genocide never happens again in this galaxy. Vexstar looked around his bridge at his crew. They were all watching him, waiting for his decision. He thought about his home world, about his people living under Alliance control, about the fear that had dominated galactic politics for 37 years. Admiral Carter, he said, the Zephyrian Republic accepts your offer. The main screen changed one final time, showing communication channels opening all across the galaxy. Human voices began broadcasting on every frequency, speaking to every inhabited world. People of the galaxy, Admiral Carter announced. This is Admiral Helen Carter of the Free Human Fleet. We are transmitting from multiple locations throughout known space. As you can see, reports of humanity's extinction were false. The broadcasts showed human ships, human colonies, human cities. Millions of people who were supposed to be dead, all very much alive and thriving. For 37 years, we have been gathering evidence of crimes committed by the Hegemony Alliance. Today, we present that evidence to the Galactic Council and demand justice. Document after document appeared on screens across the galaxy. The truth about the war, about the genocide, about the Alliance's other crimes. Everything the people of the galaxy had never been allowed to see. Captain Morrison stood on his bridge, watching as the broadcasts spread from system to system. Aria, are you monitoring galactic communications? Yes, Captain. Initial reactions are mixed, but there's significant support for our position. Many species are expressing outrage at the evidence we've presented. Lieutenant Commander Park looked up from her station. Sir, I'm detecting ships from multiple non-alliance species moving toward the galactic capital. Looks like they want to hear more. Morrison nodded. Good. The truth has a way of spreading once it starts. Commander Vexstar watched from his own ship as history changed around him. The galaxy would never be the same after today. The Hegemony Alliance's reign of fear was ending, and a new era was beginning. Captain Morrison.